I Own It will give you a front row seat to the positioning, bold moves, and sometimes the dog-eat-dog negotiations that go on behind the scenes of the deals that break the norms, set the precedent, and become the case study we devour as we harnessed our craft. Welcome to the season. Leverage. You got it or you don't. This week, we're sitting down with special guest Peter Hurley. Peter Hurley, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for having me in your hometown. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you came, and I'm glad I'm here. It's cool to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.
And I was like psyched to do it. I was psyched you asked.
Well,
yeah.
So the show is about leverage.
Yeah.
How do you look at leverage? What does leverage mean to you?
Well, I mean, I'm an artist, so for me, it's really my expertise that I use the leverage for. So it's like, you know, I think anybody that's good at what they do, they're going to use leverage, right? So we've already met for 2 seconds, and I already started like laying into stuff about about, you know, appearance on people. I think the human face is like the most interesting thing to look at. So I start to look at it in a different way, and people aren't used to that. So immediately I'm developing leverage as the artist that I am. So people get in front of my camera, and I'm immediately sussing them out. So I got to figure out how to make them look their best, what to do. And I'm trying to create that thought in them of that trust in me as their photographer. So that's the leverage that I have, is that they got in front of me. Hopefully they got the memo that I'm really good, and they allow me to kind of mold them into something that's pretty cool for them. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes the leverage isn't there. Like they just got told by their boss or their company, hey, you got to go get a headshot with Peter. And they walk in and they're like, all right, whatever. I had this one thing happen. I would go to my kid's school, and I would, just because I thought it was nice I was like, they can't have crappy headshots, the faculty. I was like, so I called the principal, and I'm like, look, I'll do the whole school. I'll just come down, just tell the teachers I'm there. They put me in the auditorium. I get down there, and the first guy shows up in the morning, and he's like, what am I doing here? And I was like, I'm just, the only note they got was that, go down to the auditorium, have your headshot taken. One of the parents is going to shoot it. That's it. They didn't say anything else. So they get to me, and the guy's like, what are we doing here? What do we do? I said, look, my kids are, you know, everybody knew my kids because I have twins, me and Oriana, and they're at the school, so they all knew. They have this crazy. They're like, oh, you're the dad of me and Oriana. I was like, yeah. I was like, get in front of my camera. He's like, okay. I take the first picture. The guy's like, kind of like, all right, whatever. And then he's like, all right, I'll do it. So I take the picture, and I always shoot in my computer, so I show it to him. And the guy looks at it, he goes, do we get to keep these? I was like, yeah, you get to keep them. Anyway, he leaves. I didn't have anybody else in line, and the next person comes, and then the next person comes, and by like a half hour after the word of mouth went around the school, the line was out the door of all the faculty that I was shooting. So sometimes your leverage is something that you have that they don't know you have, and then you show them your greatness, and it's like, whoa, mind-blowing. So I try to do that with everybody that I photograph and everybody I encounter. It's a great conversation piece for me.
So when did you first learn about leverage? When did you first learn about this in your artistic craft?
Well, I went through a process of, I was never ever like sure about what I was going to do in life. I was just like flying by the seat of my pants. Ended up with a camera in my hand, but before that, I was a model. And I would get in these situations where I didn't know. I mean, I just got thrust in front of a camera. Somebody said I was good looking. I did not think I was any great shakes, but I was like, all right, if you want, you know. So my first job was for Ralph Lauren. And I found that on that job, I was with this photographer, Bruce Weber. It made me feel really comfortable. I was like, I knew it was for, you know, I'd worn polo all my life. It was a big deal for me. I was totally nervous. This guy totally put me at ease and was like a pro. I was like, this guy's amazing. I was like having fun. I raced sailboats, so Polo was doing a thing with sailors. I was on the boat. Bruce was shooting me on the boat. It was like the best job of my life. It was cool. I find out I have a modeling career after that. And then I get in front of another photographer's camera, and I was like, because I had never modeled before, this photographer didn't know what to say to me, and I was like a fish out of water. And I was like, I had no respect for that guy. And I was like, and I didn't know what to do. So the clients there, and whatever, I forget, some of the jobs, I remember some, and some of the other, one of the clients was Wrangler. And this guy says to me, he goes, just do what you do. And in my brain, I'm like, I don't do anything. What's this guy talking about? So immediately he lost my trust in him and had zero leverage with me to get me to do what I wanted to do. While Bruce built it through self-trust, and I mean through trust. I trusted him, and we got amazing stuff. I mean, it was like amazing. So and then that translated into when I picked up a camera, I never want to leave somebody hanging. I don't want to abuse the leverage, because I have to do it with the human. I have to get them to look their best, but I need to persuade them to do something that I want to do. And most people don't feel comfortable in front of cameras. So I kind of like vie that against them. Actually, my biggest source of leverage is, this is probably the biggest thing, and I didn't think about this prior to coming in because I knew what you talked about, and I was like, what am I going to say as a photographer? But this is, my biggest source of leverage is this. I discovered what people find is more important to them than their appearance. Do you know what it is? You probably don't know. Nobody ever figures this out when I say it, so I'll give you a shot.
I'm going to say intellect.
Ah, you got it. Dude, nobody ever gets that.
Only an intelligent person would know that, right?
That's amazing. That's unbelievable.
Let me ask you something.
Nobody ever gets that. Jeez.
When did you implement what you learned from your experiences in this particular experience about leverage?
Well, I think School of Hard Knocks is the best place to learn.
Right.
My daughter was leaving this morning. She's a stylist in the city, and she's like, Dad, I got this job tomorrow, but I got to ask my other job if I can get off. But the woman that I'm supposed to work with is tough. I'm going to have a really stressful day. I don't think I should do it. And I said, no. Are you kidding me? I never learned from the easy ones. I was like, it was the tough ones when you got to figure it out. It's when you lose the leverage that you got to figure out, okay, how can I pivot and get this leverage back so that I can get this done? For me, sometimes it's working with celebrities that, have the leverage coming in. Like, I want the job. I want to shoot a big celebrity. I love it. The adrenaline rush for me is getting a celebrity in front of my camera. It's just like shooting recognizable people of influence. I like it. I think it's cool. It's like a rush. And for me, it's like they have, I have what I've got. They hired me. I've got enough talent to have them. I'm honored to have them in front of my camera, but I got to do a good job. And they are used to probably be in front of a lot of cameras. And probably I had one guy that was pretty well known, I guess. He thought he had all the leverage, and I was like not giving it to him. And there was this like he's like, I'm in photographs so many times, and I'm just thinking, never by the likes of me. I was like, I have such a base of, I call it my base layer, is my self-trust in my ability and my skill set is so honed in on this one thing. So I'm known as the headshot guy. So you shoot a headshot close up, like I get close up on somebody, it's game over. So I know that, and I use that to my advantage. So I use the intellect to play with that. So I have to go to a place that gives me more leverage to get them to get to do what. And sometimes you have to, not utilize. You have to learn. It's like a tightrope almost. You got to know when you can play a game and when you can't. The bottom line for me is my purpose as a photographer is to make everybody feel better about their appearance from having been in front of my camera, period. That's it. So if I have to do that, I'm going to use whatever means necessary to do it.
So when does owning the perfect headshot create leverage for an ambitious professional?
Oh, I think your digital business card right now is your profile picture everywhere. It's all over the place. You walk in the room, like, people know what you look like because of that picture. You need to be proud of it. First of all, it needs to look like you. Second of all, you need to be proud of it, and you can't look at it, and it's gotta, if you're playing this game properly, it's gotta be as good as anybody else's out there. Like, why would you let somebody have one up on you in the appearance department or however you look? Now, in terms of appearance, everybody's different. You know, we didn't pick our parents. So, you know, we got stuck with whatever we're with. And some people handle it better than others, and I get that. But my job is not that. My job is to do the best with what I've got to get that person to understand that this is what they're wrapped in for life, and we got to get them looking good and present themselves to the best of their ability, you know, as they go through this thing we call life. The other thing is everybody's changing. So I really think you need one that's current. I think it needs to look like you, and it needs to convey the vibe that you give off, you know, at the moment that you take it. It's that kind of thing.
So you mentioned self-acceptance, and how do you encourage self-acceptance and leverage that to create these authentic, beautiful headshots that you do?
I think it's well, for me, I got to trick people most of the time, because the camera goes up and people are just like, there's a little hesitancy. They just become a little bit less. I did a TEDx talk where I talked about bridging the self-acceptance gap, it's called. And it was a long time ago now, but I found that, you know, most people, about 7% of humans get in front of a camera and they don't flinch. Like, it's rare. And maybe I think that's a little high even. And then there's another percentage that just become about 66%. I came up with these numbers on my own just from shooting so many people, and I was like, this is the number. They become less of themselves. They just kind of like you could just tell they lost their edge. It's just a little bit of difference than what they were before. And I think the photographer's job, and I coach photographers like globally on this, is to get that person back to that person that they saw when they walked in the room. And that's just the more time you spend in front of the camera, sometimes you just get better at it. I'm in front of cameras all the time. They don't faze me really. Sometimes when I go on a live camera, it's a little different, but a still camera, I'm like, let it rip. You know, I modeled for 8 years and I'm on cameras all the time. But, and sometimes I have celebrities that come in and I just point the camera at them and I don't have to do anything. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. I shot Sofia Vergara and she was just like, all I had to do was press the button. I was like, this is the easiest job. She was just gave so much life and energy to the camera. It was phenomenal.
You have some very impressive life experiences and brought insights. How have they brought insights and leverage to your craft? All these experiences that you've gone through with the camera.
I think that everybody's on a journey with whatever they decide to do. I decided to be a photographer, and then I actually decided to leverage that so that I could become a little bit more entrepreneurial. I just didn't want to take pictures my whole life. I enjoy taking pictures. I love taking pictures, but I went from, I just decided that I need to figure out how to utilize my talents in a better way. And I ended up starting to coach, and it kind of fell in my lap. I had these guys who ran a photography blog walk into my studio. Then and I was like with blinders on. I was just in New York studio doing my own thing, trying to just, do it the best of my ability. And these guys saw me and they're like, hey, we want to come in and interview you. And I was like, okay. So they come in and interview me, and they put it out on this blog, and the blog was fairly new. Now it's like the biggest photography, or second biggest, one of the biggest photography blogs out there. But at the time it was new. But all of a sudden more photographers started contacting me than clients. I was like, what's going on? And they're like, everybody loves you. We need to do a tutorial on headshot photography with you. And I was like, I've never taught anything before except for sailing. I don't know how to teach. And I'm self-taught as a photographer. So I was like, I don't know what the heck how I'm gonna do this. And they're like, you'll be great, whatever. I was like, all right. So they come in. Anyway, long story short, we did the tutorial. It took off like a rocket ship. While I did that, my friend, who was a web developer, he made my photography website. He's like, we should make like a website for photographers. And I was like, all right, let's do that. And he's like, and then these guys were like, you should do a workshop. I was like, okay, I'll do a workshop. So I did a workshop. I started a website for photographers. And then they're like, you use all these products, why don't you make some? So I made some lights, and now I sell lights. I have 20,000 photographers that I coach globally on my website. It's a subscription service, so I use it to be, it is my thing to be kind of entrepreneurial with that. And now I'm going different directions with some other things. So I've used the core asset was my ability with a camera, and I leverage that to open up all these other things so that now I can take pictures when I want, and I can hang and do different things. I could do whatever.
That's
fantastic.
It's cool. So in your book, you reveal all these secrets, your photography and online videos. How did the book create leverage in your career?
The camera gave me like something more than book smarts, I guess, or whatever. So when this one photographer, his name's Scott Kelby, he's great. He ran like the biggest, he still runs one of the biggest photo educational services in the world for people wanting to learn photography. It's called Kelby One. And Scott, this is the thing, I think in life there's certain people, you get to this point in your life, and you said when we came in you had mentors. I was like, you come to this point in your life and then a door opens because of a human. And I have these humans in my life that open doors for me, and my life just went like that. And Scott was not taking no for an answer on a book from me. So first, I did this video, I put it on YouTube. I just did this video on telling people that they have to get their jawline out to look better in cameras. It's the number one way you look more attractive. Like if you go into double chinsville like this, most people walk around like this, and all you have to do is go like this, and immediately you look better. So I did a video on that, and it went viral. They put me on Good Morning America. All this stuff happened because everybody puts their camera up here,
right?
Because they don't want to bring their jawline out. I mean, I think it takes more energy to put your arm up like this than it does to put your neck out like this. Plus, you lose the background. We have a gorgeous background here. Like if I want to do a picture of myself in here, I want to put my camera level, get the background, and jam my forehead out toward the camera. That's it. And then Scott's doing a photography conference with Google, and he said, I want you to speak. I'd never spoken before, and anything. I had spoken a little bit at B&H Photo. They asked me to speak in their event space for like some photographers in front of me. So we get to the Yerba Buena Center in San Francisco, and I'm like, this is crazy. And they've got me slated for a 3 p.m. slot. I'd never spoken before. My deck was not in my possession yet. I had a guy that was making it for me, and he was going to send it to me that morning. I mean, he sent me bits and pieces of it, but he was finalizing on it. So I'm working on it. They tell me, Larry and Sergey need your spot, so you got to move up to go after the keynote presentation. I wasn't ready yet. I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. This is a video that's online. I look so green talking on stage on this thing. Scott's up there and he says, hey, I got this great guy, Peter Hurley, you got to stay in your seats. Everybody stayed. And I walked out. I was so nervous that I couldn't get my finger on the trackpad to get to the mouse to where the play button was on the keynote presentation because I was shaking so much. Anyway, long story short, not long story long, Scott says to me, you got to write a book. And that was it. I was like, all right, but I don't write. He goes, we're gonna be okay. You're gonna fly down and see. He's in Florida. I flew down every month on Tuesdays, because Wednesdays he would have a show called The Grid, and he would put me on it. So I'm going to Florida every month,
right.
Every month, and we put an iPhone in between us, and we transcribed the book. I just talked it out. And then I got the transcript back, and I was like, I don't like this. And I rewrote the whole thing. So that book, I think, have you written one? I didn't check.
Not yet.
You gotta write one.
Coming to a store near you.
There you go. Yeah. Because I think Scott said to me, he's like, look, it's not about the money you make off a book or anything. It's the fact that you're going to be an author.
Right.
You're going to be an authority on the subject. And I was like, nobody ever wrote a book on headshots before like that. And I am the authority on the subject. So that was leverage for all the other things that open up. I still use, that book was written in 20, everybody's like, you got to do a second edition. I'm like, do you know that was like the hardest thing I ever did? Like that, and I trained for the Olympics. I was like, that was hard. It was hard writing a book.
Peter just mentioned that humans open up the door. Humans provide opportunities. I want you to ask yourself, who in your life will open up those opportunities, which create leverage?
When is taking leverage too far for you?
Oh, I think that for me it's obvious because I'll lose the person that I'm working with. So some people are, I don't know if you've noticed this, but some people are fairly controlling.
That doesn't happen in life, does it?
And it doesn't change no matter what they're doing.
Right.
You know, they're the people that they go into the Michelin star restaurant and they start ordering on the side. They're like, no, you got to do this and that. Like this thing is concocted perfectly. Stop messing around. They do that with me. So I used to have this makeup artist. We fought all the time, so we don't work together anymore.
Right.
But it was
Right.
like I think in my older age, I'm getting more in tune with people so that I don't do this. But I was the artist that needed to have it my way or the highway.
Uh-huh.
And so people would there would be drama in the studio. And my makeup artist would play good cop and I'd be bad cop. And we knew we were going to do this, but it wasn't like on purpose. It was like because I was really pissed. So he'd be like, they'd go back to the makeup chair and he'd be like, look, he just wants you to just do this and everything will be, you know. So actors, my training ground of photography was photographing actors for their headshots.
Right.
So this is a make or break situation for them. They've got to look good for their agent, their manager, the casting directors. They got to get in the door. It's either they're going to get in that door and get that audition or not based off the way they look, period. Yeah. Like it's going to open up door. Like their resume could be great, their headshot's crappy, not going to happen. So they come into me with tons of pressure on them, right? And I have to break through that to get them to behave like themselves to pull the best out of them. Easier said than done. So I will do whatever it takes to do that because I was at that stage. I started out as I was a model, actor, bartender dude myself, and I was like, I don't want to be in a bar anymore. I just thought I'd pick up the camera to make money so that I could act. I didn't think my modeling was going to last that long. I was like, I want to be an actor. And then I realized that I had zero talent for that. I was terrible in front of the camera. I have some stories on that too. But I end up trying to figure out, I guess my whole thing was how to persuade the human to do what it is that I want without them knowing I'm trying to do it. So this is what I would do with actors that when they were a real problem and I couldn't get them to listen to me. Some people just won't budge, so I won't press the button if the face looks blank for me. So for instance, when people get in front of cameras, usually their personality evaporates. So they look like this. They just look like, or they're like this,
right?
You know, and I'm looking at them like you can't look in like the casting director's not going to latch on to that. So if they don't listen to me, what I usually do is, and I think if you get really good at reading people, you can notice it the second you meet them that they're controlling. It's just like it's a vibe. It's like I just know. I was like, this is not going to go well. So what I'll do is I'll plant a seed. Just to see, and if I use it, I use it. If I don't, I don't. So the person comes in, they're hanging up their clothes, and I'll say something like to my makeup artist or to my assistant, he just gave me the budget for the film. He just gave me $1 million so I could do my film. This is amazing. This is phenomenal. Oh my gosh! And I go over and I tell my assistant, all right, and I start naming casting directors. Get the casting director, because I was an actor, I know who they are. Get the casting director here in New York, then get me set up we're gonna have to do it in like 3 weeks in LA. All right, get it going. I don't say anything to the woman in the chair. Anyway, she gets in front of the camera an hour later, or whatever, after makeup, and I'm shooting and I'm just not getting through. And I'm like, nothing's happening, I can't get her to listen to me, she's being kind of a pain in the butt. And I go to my makeup artist, I said, don't you think she'd be great for Jenny? And he's like, oh my gosh, she'd be phenomenal for Jenny. Oh, by the way, can you turn your head, drop your shoulder, bring your chin out, give me a hint of a smile, do this, do that, do the other thing. Everything I said they did. Everything. Everything. So what happens is once that starts, I forget that I made up the story because I would do it so often. So at the end of the shoot, she'd be like, okay, can I get how am I going to audition?
Right.
And I'd be like, I was just making it up. And they get pissed. I would be like, I was just trying, but look at your pictures. They're so great. Or they'd leave and call me back. Or during the thing, I would just start the story and I just make it so insane that they got to the point where they knew I was kidding.
But instead of doing that, what if you took the approach of just saying, look, if you don't follow my lead because I have this amount of experience,
They don't care.
They don't care.
No, zero.
So just
Doesn't
being
matter.
upfront with them doesn't work.
Doesn't
on that.
work. They don't care.
Interesting.
They don't care. When it comes to their appearance, they don't care. They don't care. They're with me because they know I have that experience.
Right.
And they still don't listen to me.
Interesting.
It blows my mind. And I don't love it, but I'm like, hey, what am I going to do? This is the situation I'm in. Like I said before, I only learn from the tough ones. The easy ones are just fun. The easy ones are great. I love it. I mean, it's just, but I didn't learn anything. The tough ones are when you have to come up with cockamamie schemes like that. I'm like, that's just,
Well, thank you for being on Leverage. It was great to see you, and we appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks, man.
Cool.
It's time to jump out of your comfort zone and start using leverage you have right in front of you. Are you ready to put in the hard work? If you said yes, then what are you waiting for? Let's go out there and own it together.